naming a boat is an age-old tradition. It bestows a unique identity on the vessel, and it reflects the owner's personality, their interests, maybe their sense of humor. It makes the boat more than just an object and makes it more meaningful. When we bought this boat, it'd been sitting abandoned for quite a while. It was filthy, it was covered in seagull poop, the bottom was overgrown, you could see all that green growth coming up even like above the waterline. It was pretty sorry. The name that the boat had at the time just didn't really resonate with us. Someone had wrapped the beautiful wooden placard in white duct tape, and they had used lettering from Home Depot to smack a name on the back, and didn't mean anything to us. It didn't say anything about the boat. Right out of the gate, we knew that wasn't what we wanted. So after a few months, and once we finally had a slip for this boat, I got around to actually taking the wooden placards off the transom of the boat. And I took them home where I'd be able to actually begin refinishing them.
What's in the name of a boat? You know, like, there's a lot of lore around, you know, boat names, and I just wasn't connecting with Jam Jam, the previous name, and it looks like the name before that was Island Girl, and yeah, I'm not feeling that either. That's not my jam. So Lee Hawk, that's the name that we connect with.
You know, we wanted something original and something that didn't feel totally cliched. So we put our thinking caps on and we came up with the word Lee and the word Hawk. The word Lee because this is a Choi Lee boat. It was built in 1970 in Hong Kong, so the word Lee is a nod to the manufacturer, to the shipbuilder. Also, being in the lee of an island is generally considered the calmer, more relaxed place to be, as opposed to being on the windward side of an island. So we kind of like that idea, the double entendre of Choi Lee and being in the lee of an island. So that's the first part. And then Hawk, because
Here's a hawk. Hawk. Two hawks. Hawk. Hawk. Mangled hawk. You get the idea.
All right, let's do some sanding and see if we can't get us a nice canvas for a new name.
I sanded away all of the glue that was left over from the duct tape. Beneath that glue residue, you could also see the previous name of the boat, which was Island Girl. But eventually I was able to just sand that all away and get this wood back to a nice, pristine condition.
Well, there we go. Got it sanded back to basically good as new. So now we just have to figure out what we want to put on here. What do you want, Hilo? What do you want? Huh? What do you want on here?
I knew right from the beginning that I wanted Lee Hawk to be hand-painted on this wooden placard. I really love old, traditional, hand-painted signs. At first, I thought I might do it, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that the likelihood was really high that I would start this, screw it up, and then have to resand this board back down to the condition that it's in right now. So I hunted around on Instagram and I found an awesome local sign painter who paints everything by hand and who specializes in kind of that old school classic look that I like. I told her about the project, sent her some photos of the boat and the wooden placards, and asked her if she'd be interested in not only painting the sign for us, but letting me film her paint this so we could all learn more about the process of what goes into hand painting a sign. Before she arrived at the house to begin painting Lee Hawk on the sign, she asked me to make sure that I had put a couple of coats of varnish on the wood signs ahead of time. So that way the oil paints wouldn't just suck into the raw wood, there'd be a nice surface for those oil paints to adhere to. I thought these signs just looked beautiful varnished, and I was super excited to have her show up and begin painting.
My name is Jenna, and my business is called Jenna Paints. You can find me on Instagram at Jenna_paints. Or jennapaints.com. Right now, I put down some powder on the varnish just so when I put the gold leaf down, it won't totally fuse to this wood and be really hard to get off. But like sizing wise, does this feel good to you? I think this one is a little bit bigger. Yeah,
I would opt for more coverage.
Let's do that.
If somebody's trying to read the name of the boat, it's gonna be from afar, so bigger is likely better.
I'm gonna take black pounce powder. It's basically just ground up charcoal. And I have tiny little holes in these patterns that I burned through with a pounce machine. And that way, when you hit it with chalk, it just leaves behind a little outline for you.
So like
to
you'll
paint.
pat the paper and the chalk will go through the paper?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you get into sign painting?
I initially took a class in San Francisco because I had started to really notice all the great signage in San Francisco. So I took that class and I was like, oh, I really like this. A year or so later, I moved down to LA to go to Trade Tech, LATTC, and it's the only school in the country that you can learn sign painting through like a formal school program. And you just like really learn all the different tricks of like what makes a letter look balanced and like how to use this and that. And it was just a complete game changer. Like I feel like that's something that isn't really taught on YouTube or anything like that. Okay, so right now, this is size. So I'll paint this on and then it will tack up and I can add the gold leaf to it. You add like a couple drops of paint into it because it's pretty translucent. So that just makes it a little bit easier to see.
Is it like almost like not an adhesive, but?
No, honestly, yeah, it
Yeah.
is like similar. Okay. I like classic, simple, old school inspired stuff, but I do like things that are just simple. Like simple is better, I think. I'm more interested in art that is practical and useful and can be enjoyed by people just existing in space. Whether it's like a really nice storefront sign that like people who like signs will notice it. People who don't, a hand-painted sign still has kind of like a subliminal effect on atmosphere and how you feel in a place. There's still like a reason why people walk through a neighborhood and say like, oh, this neighborhood's so cute, or like, oh, this is a cool area. It's like because there are all these little touches that are contributing to a sense of community. And that I think is way more interesting. I like how it's just more democratic and publicly accessible. So there's like a knuckle test to check if your tack is ready. It'll make a little squeak.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's when we're good to go. Lemon gold is 18 carats, so it's just the amount of silver that's in it. The lemon gold is pretty.
I think it's pretty.
I just like it.
So it just sticks to.
It just sticks to
That
the
makes
size.
sense. Yep.
It's like honestly very low tech, like this technique compared to water gilding. This one is just, if you have the timing down, that is the key thing. Because if you put it on too early when the tack is not ready, the leaf will just sink into the glue and it kind of dulls the appearance. You can't do any sort of burnishing effects, which we'll be doing. And if you put it too late, it just doesn't stick. But when you get it just right, the luster stays nice and bright. The gold is resting on top of the size. So we are looking good. Super scientific karate chopping technique here.
Is that just knocking off the excess?
It kind of like, there'll be little tiny holes in the gold that this, just the extra gold that's floating around will kind of sink in there. And then it just makes sure that everything really gets pressed in. And you're gonna have gold leaf in your garage for the unforeseeable future. It's looking good so far. I'm happy with that guild. I'm gonna let this just dry a little bit more.
Okay.
I'm gonna switch over to here, paint these black letters. Honestly, probably just knock this one out.
When it came time to paint, Jenna wanted to focus on the work and not have to actually talk and paint at the same time. So we sat in silence as she really showed off her craftsmanship. Even though I rationally understand that I'm watching someone who's practiced hundreds, if not thousands of hours on her craft, watching her use the paintbrush to create such precise edges and straight lines without messing up, without painting outside the lines, I was completely impressed. When she started to add the white architectural block shadow, it was incredible to see the bottom San Pedro sign just really come to life with this kind of almost 3D quality. Once she'd finished the smaller sign,
Jenna turned her attention back to the larger sign, where she started to use a technique called hand turning. This involved taking a small velvet ball and then applying pressure to the gold leaf and twisting it. The resulting swirl creates a more 3D textured gold leaf gilding. Super interesting and cool to see the gold leaf transition from a flat surface to this kind of swirly, light-catching surface. I'd never seen this process before, but it really was it was incredible to watch, and you can absolutely see the difference in the light once the gold leaf has been turned. Once she'd finished this phase of turning all the gold leaf, she resumed painting and knocked out the rest of the sign in no time. It was an incredible experience to watch her paint these signs and to see these pieces of art get created right in front of my face. You know, I fancy myself a creative, artistic person, but it's so incredible when you actually get to sit down with someone who is just really, really good at their craft. Humbling, inspirational, super rewarding. I'm just super grateful that Jenna let us document her process in creating our signs.
So here is the finished product. Just gotta get some of this old chalk off when it's dry. We have this 18 karat gilded edges, and I think it turned out pretty great.
I think it looks awesome.
And with the light.
What is it called? The turning of the gold leaf?
I just did it by hand, but it's referred to as machine turned or engine turned. You see it on fire trucks a lot and boats, honestly. So we have this, and then this one as well. No gold leaf, just paint.
Nice.
But I think it looks great. I think it looks very 3D. I think it pops, and it'll get cleaned up and varnished, and should last a long time.
I was so excited with how the sign turned out. That gold flake just really chef's kiss, looks so good. And now that the sign was painted, it was my turn to actually then varnish over the actual oil lettering and gold flake to protect it from the elements, to offer it some UV protection, that kind of thing.
I'm super bummed this Epiphanes High Gloss Clear Varnish. It wasn't clear. It went on just as amber as the actual amber tinted varnish I bought. I mean, what a disappointment. It just looks, I mean, I guess it has warm tones now throughout if I'm trying to be glass half full, but super bummed. The white looked so much better before, and I'm just really disappointed in this varnish. Just see how like yellow that is now. Here, I missed a spot right here when I was painting, and you can just see the difference. That's yellow, that's white.
I was really bummed out, if I'm being honest. That's not what I had previously envisioned, but once I had put it on, there was really no way to back out of it without kind of having to start the whole project from scratch again and sanding the board back down, bringing Jenna back out, paying her for her time, of course. So I just lived with it, and I put on another, I think, 5 or 6 coats of varnish over that. And the way the sign turned out, it has like a really cool vintage look to it. It looks as though it's already been aged in the sun, I guess. In the end, it wasn't exactly what I wanted, but I do think the sign is quite beautiful. I think the lettering is just awesome, and the gold flake still looks incredible in the sun. Jillian loved it, and she thought it was great. So we went ahead and just said, you know what, this is awesome. It's leagues ahead of what was here previously, and so we're gonna get this sign put back on the boat. So as luck would have it, a couple of days before we were gonna come out to the boat to put the sign back on, I got a new boat neighbor. This individual is, I guess, getting accustomed to driving his new powerboat, and I just happened to be there when he was coming back in, and he got turned around as he tried to dock his boat. The current basically twisted his position in the little channel between her fingers, and he ended up bumping up against the back of Lee Hawk, and he caught the steel pipe that comes out of the transom that was once used to attach a wind vane. I've never really liked it. It's always looked kind of like an exhaust pipe, even though it isn't. And I suppose in the back of my mind, I was like, well, I could leave it there. Maybe we'll reattach a wind vane and I might want it there. But once his boat hit it, it actually cracked the fiberglass reinforcement inside the transom that was holding that pipe in place. So now seeing the boat hit it and cracking it, and knowing that, you know, who knows, this could happen again, I decided just to go ahead and yank this pipe out of the transom.
I want to get this out. And yesterday, my neighbor from this slip right here was kind enough to bump into me when he was trying to dock, and you can see he cracked the fiberglass housing that was holding that in place anyway. So see if we can get it out today, and then I will patch that hole closed.
It wasn't terribly hard to do. I used the multi-tool to just kind of zip in around the edges of the pipe and free up the fiberglass that was there previously. The fiberglass had not adhered very well to the steel pipe anyway. That makes total sense. The steel pipe is smooth, and typically you want a rough surface for the fiberglass to grab onto. It wasn't ever a great job, I don't think. But after some multi-tooling and some banging on it with a rubber mallet, I was able to get it out no problem.
All right, well, that took a second, but okay, now it's done. This is out. I'll keep this for something. I don't know what, but you never know what this might come in handy. And then tomorrow I will seal this up. I'm waiting on a wooden round to plug that hole, and we'll get it all fiberglassed up, and Bob's your uncle.
I found a wooden puck that I could put in the hole where the pipe had previously been, and that took up most of the space. So then I was able to mix up some epoxy and add a bunch of fiberglass filler to it.
See if we can make a little peanut butter paste here.
And then just kind of spackle it into all the cracks and crevices. And I put in a ton so that the excess would push out the backside, so that I knew that I'd get it nice and full. And I just kind of lathered that on in the first coat.
All right, I think I'm gonna let that set up, and then I'll come back, sand it, and do it again. And then we'll move to the inside.
I waited a few hours, and then I came back and I sanded it down until it was nice and flush, and put on a little bit more. I did, I think, 3 coats in total, where I just kind of apply a little bit, let it cure, then sand it, apply a little bit, let it cure, and sand it, until it got to a place where it felt really smooth to the touch. I ended up washing the whole back of the transom to get everything nice and clean. And once I started to roll on the white epoxy topside paint, I just decided to go ahead and just give a coat of paint to the whole transom, just so it would look even. And that fresh coat of paint really did make the transom look nice, and it completely hid that circular patch job.
Alrighty, a little painting with a little rock and roll movement. I think fun. Got that painted up. Just gonna blended it into the back. And I think it looks pretty good. And once I get the signs up, it's gonna look awesome.
Jillian came out, and she hunkered down in the transom locker, and I got out there on the little dinghy, and together we were able to fish in some new bolts.
There it is.
Hold on one second.
Okay.
Which one are you doing? This one?
Yeah.
Right here?
Yep. Actually, let me hold it on this side and you tighten it.
Okay. You tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready. Well, I'm just getting it so it's not so loose. I'm only hand tightening. I feel like when Stefani, I'm in the spider webs. Leave a message and I'll call you back. Okay, it's hand tightened.
Okay, and let's do the other one.
Yeah.
I just couldn't be happier. It is so cool to see, and not just any name placard, but a hand-painted, gold-leafed sign on the original wood. The sign sparks joy. As always, thanks so much for watching. There are a couple of ways you can support the channel. The cheap and free ones are super easy. Just hit the like button or leave us a comment, subscribe to the channel. That part's free, it's easy, it just takes seconds to do. And if you like, we do have a website where we sell some merch with our cool logo on it. And if you send us a photo of yourself wearing any piece of our merch, it'll go right here on the Merch Hall of Fame for all to see. And we're just so stoked on all the photos we've gotten so far. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks.